think it's beginning.
Yeah,
Okay,
perfect. Thank you so much. So just very quickly, here's how today will work. We'll hear from the three speakers, each bringing a different perspective on digital well-being and AI. After each presentation, we'll move into a short breakout room activity so you can discuss the ideas with other participants and capture some of your reflections on the Miro board. Link will be shared soon. Towards the end, we will be bringing speakers together for a short expert panel discussion and audience Q&A, followed by a final takeaway from each speaker. So today is very much designed as a conversation rather than just simply a series of presentation. That is something that I already said. All right, so a quick word from who am I, since I'll be here with you throughout the whole session. So I'm an EdTech professional and AI and STEM education specialist, currently doing a master's in education technology from UCL. Over the last 5 years, I've worked with technology-driven learning initiatives that have reached more than 50,000 students, and I have trained more than 35,000 educators across 70 plus countries. So my work has mostly lived at the intersection of curriculum design, educator training, and EdTech integration. I have delivered over 400 live sessions. I've built more than 40 international partnerships. So if anything today sparks a question or you would like to connect afterward, feel free to scan the code at the top and reach out to me on LinkedIn. So before moving ahead, I'll quickly invite Tina to introduce herself and MentorMind.
Okay, thank you very much for the very warm intro, Beck, and it was really lovely to see everybody here today. And many of you I've known in person, and so nice to catch up with you over the last couple of weeks. So very briefly about myself, I'm a founder and CEO of MentorMind Education, which is an organization hosting this webinar. I'm an international educator as well, a researcher and EdTech founder. I spent over a decade teaching and as a middle leader across North America, Asia, and the UK in independent, international, and state schools. So alongside MentorMind, I'm a postgraduate researcher at the UCL Institute of Education. My research currently sits at the educational leadership, AI literacy, and research-informed professional learning, and the responsible AI in education. I currently contribute to the collaborative research on the AI Ethics Collab Labs at the Oxford University for the group of AI Ethics. So a lot of what we're discussing today connects very closely with my own work, particularly how we translate what we're learning about AI into real school practice without losing the human judgment, the relationship and thinking that matters so much to our students in education. So that thinking, next slide please, is what really sits behind MentorMind. So we're a UCL-supported EdTech company founded by educators building teacher-led AI workflows for schools. We support areas including teaching, assessment, feedback, personalized learning, but the principle behind the platform is more important to us than just any single features. AI should support the judgment of teachers and the thinking of learners rather than replacing either of them. So we deliberately keep educators in the loop. One example is our teacher dashboard. As you can see, rather than AI simply creating more outputs, we're trying to connect the workflow with assessment, evidence, feedback, and identifying the learning gaps into one teacher-led action. So the goal isn't more data just for the sake of it. It's helping teachers see what a learner needs and decide what should happen next. So if any school leaders here would be interested in exploring this in practice with us in co-design, we're currently opening a small number of school partnerships for the upcoming year. So feel free to scan the QR code to book a conversation with us to talk about a pilot. Next slide, please. These are just some of the few examples the teachers can use in the planning and the features of the platform, from assessments to assignments, etc. I won't take you through the features, not a product demo, but what actually has become increasingly important through our work with schools is that giving people the tools is not enough. It's only a small part of responsible AI adoption. Next slide, please. Because teachers and leaders are asking much deeper questions. When should we use AI? When shouldn't we use AI? What happens to student thinking? And how do we protect assessment integrity? What does responsible use actually look like in practice? So that's why, alongside this technology, we've been developing evidence-informed professional learning courses for teachers and school leaders around AI literacy, well-being, assessment, and responsible implementation. We also work directly with schools to develop professional learning curriculum. So if there are any questions that you and your staff potentially are struggling with, we'll be very happy to talk to you afterwards. And these are exactly the kinds of questions that led us to bring today's webinar together. We deliberately curated a group of experts from different perspectives and areas of expertise so that we can look at digital well-being in the age of AI from several angles, from technology to human flourishing to child development, education, and responsible implementation. For me, responsible AI isn't simply about adopting new technology. It's about developing the knowledge and the judgment to decide how technology should serve learning, rather than allowing the technology to determine what learning becomes. So I'm really looking forward to today's discussion. We now have three speakers bring quite different perspectives to the conversation, so I'm going to introduce them and also allow them to introduce themselves. Our first speaker, Rob, coming up, will be starting us off with retaining the human behind using AI, taking a broader historical perspective on technology and deeper learning and human flourishing over the years. So please introduce yourself. The floor is all yours, Rob.
Thank you so much, Tina. Thank you, Vivek. My name is Rob Acker. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here. I pursue PhD studies in leadership for educational organizations at the University of Colorado at Denver. My research interests include educational leadership, deeper learning, PD, professional learning, and international education. I have more than 15 years of teaching experience. I'm also a nationally certified PD facilitator in classroom management and differentiated instruction. And I also teach U.S. history courses at the International College of Beijing at China Agricultural University. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob. Irene? We're now moving to AI literacy starts early, so looking particularly at how younger learners can develop habits of questioning, creating, and choosing before becoming dependent on AI tools. So the floor is all yours, Irene.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Irene, and I also known as Joy, Teacher Joy, or Miss Joy, since I was working in China. So right now I'm the founder of AI Explorers Academy, where I'm currently designing a comprehensive developmentally aligned AI literacy curriculum for children from early childhood through high school. Before stepping into AI education, I spent over a decade teaching languages and working with children across different educational settings. As both an educator and a mother, I've seen firsthand how quickly childhood is changing in the age of AI. And over the past few years, my work has focused on one central question: how do we prepare children for an AI-driven world without losing the very human qualities that make learning meaningful? So that question led me to create AI Explorers Academy, and at the heart of my work is a simple philosophy. AI literacy is not just about learning AI tools, it's about helping children think critically, create responsibly, and collaborate intelligently with AI. So to support that journey, I've developed the AI Explorers Compass, a framework that guides learners through age-appropriate experience in curiosity, critical thinking, creativity, ethics, and human flourishing. And I would love to share a small part of that journey with you and explore how we can help children become confident thinkers in AI-powered world.
Thank you so much, Irene. Let's move to Jessica. Jessica, your session shifts towards agency and contribution, asking how might we move the young people from passive consumption towards passive creators. So kindly briefly introduce yourself.
Thank you, Vivek. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica. I'm an educator, systems strategist, and social entrepreneur myself, based on the beautiful shores of Georgian Bay in Ontario, Canada. I'm also a lead course designer and ecosystem steward with Georgian College's Social Innovation Department, where we're on a mission to build the future of belonging and human flourishing alongside community. Over the last 15 years, my work has spanned leadership, organizational change and entrepreneurship, social innovation, education, all in the pursuit of community co-created transformation. I'm also the founder and CEO of the U-Power Project, and we're dedicated to scaling real-world, purpose-driven learning to young people to help them recognize their limitless power and potential and creativity and turn that into meaningful contribution. We do that through the lens of social entrepreneurship, and our flagship student ventures program, teacher professional development opportunities, all the way to full-scale system-wide transformation, connecting teacher professional development in the entrepreneurial classroom with measurable classroom implementation through our U-powered learning software and entrepreneurial enhancement engine. So definitely in the right room with all of you, Tina, Vivek, our speakers, and just really grateful to be having this conversation this morning.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you so much to all of you for briefly introducing yourself. We have two more ice-breaking questions so that we can know the participants who have joined us from around the world. The first one being, when you think about young people growing up in an AI-shaped digital world, what concerns or opportunities come to your mind first? So these questions will actually set the ground for us to have the panel discussion, and this will also be reflected in the presentations by our amazing speakers who have joined us. So you can scan the same QR code, or if you have it opened in your device, you can just go there and type down your answers. Agency. I think that is actually a big concern as well as an opportunity. Human flourishing, amplification, real world application. Okay, that's an opportunity for sure. Authenticity. You're just gonna wait for a few more seconds. Overwhelming, it is definitely. Getting lost in the noise, that's also really true. Independent reasoning.
We also have one in the
Relatable.
chat from Tom, using AI tech to do the work instead of taking the time to learn the steps of proper learning methodology.
Wow.
That is well said.
Yeah.
Definitely, we're going to talk about in terms of augmentation versus replacement. So that's something very important in human agency.
Yeah.
Understanding how professional judgment needs to be preserved.
Let's move to the next question then. We have got a good amount of answers there. What do you think would make the biggest difference to young people's digital well-being? So you can select one or maximum two responses for this answer. Giving young people more agency and responsibility, more support from schools, better AI and digital literacy education. You're on the right track then, Tina. We're just going to wait for a few more seconds. After this, we will be having our presentations by our amazing speakers. I think more of people have selected the better AI and digital literacy education, which actually makes a whole lot of sense because this is a vogue topic when it comes to digital well-being or when it comes to AI and education.
It's also encouraging to see, that we recognize that AI has strong potential for positive impact, but it needs to be used correctly. And it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Technology, similar to social media. So we need to understand implications and setting guardrails to make sure before start using it, you can have the decision to know when and when not, and also the tools and to also understand how to use it effectively without potential offloading of thinking, right? So that's something we're also going to talk about today with our speakers. It's a huge topic and area of concern for us as well.
Definitely.
Okay, very good. I think it's another one, stronger regulation, age restrictions. Yes, that's also a very important factor.
Right. I think because of the time limit, let's move to our first presentation. So I would like to welcome Rob for his presentation on retaining the human when using AI. Over to you, Rob.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Because Vivek and Tina have done such a great job putting so much together and there's so much to talk about. If you guys see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at my timer to make sure I'm staying on track. So yes, welcome everyone. My name is Rob Acker once again, and I'm here to talk to you guys about retaining the human when using AI. Next, please. So one of the big things that people are worried about is what we lose and what is gained when things change. Typically, change is something that people can approach with a lot of caution and concern. And of course, AI is one of those things that's causing a lot of cautions and concerns, and we're worried about what we lose and what we gain by using AI. So let's take a look at how technologies have shifted societies in human history. So big question, how have societies historically responded to transformative technologies? Answer, they adapt and change accordingly. Believe it or not, that it seems to be part of the progress of the human species is that we have to continue to adapt and change to circumstances. And this era is no different than any other era in that regard. Next one, please. So there's lots of times in human history that a technology has come along and it has shifted everything. So actually AI is no different from a lot of these other technologies we've seen in the past. Three that I can highlight, one is about the written word. We often don't think about language and writing as a technology, but believe it or not, if we talk about when did history start, it's when we could start writing things down. And so, yeah, a more recent example, of course, is the 20th century and late 19th centuries with things like photographs and television, moving towards a more visual basis of society. And then, of course, today with AI and digital technologies, we're clearly seeing shifts in how society operates and the expectations placed upon human beings within society that operate with these technologies. Next one, please. So these are just three of the many examples we could use. I want you guys to, kind of think yourselves, are there other major shifts that happen to society due to inventions such as, say, for example, clocks or money or electricity? We've had to change as a human species more than once. If we look at oral to textual basis for society, pre-literate societies typically are seen as having a stronger memory, in part because they have to use it more. They don't have the ability to write things down, forget, and then remember by reading what they wrote down. So that's one change. But another change that happens is that we're able to preserve knowledge and experience. And so that is strengthened. So every time that there's a trade-off, there is a trade-off when we have these changes. But who's to say it's bad or good? It's really a question of how you yourself adapt to these changes and what things you do yourself and as a society, a member of society, that ultimately decides how that affects you. If we think about how society and culture change as a result of that, if you think of things like law or education, learning how to read and write is considered essential in today's world. It's a basic form of technology, and really, let's be honest, you can't use AI a whole lot if you can't at least learn how to read or write. You kind of need those skills. That said, they are diminishing in some cases, not because humans are incapable, but just because they aren't given the opportunities to really utilize those skills or build them. If we look at the text to visual mediums kind of transition there as we've moved to a more visual-based society rather than a text-based society. Some of the trade-offs we've seen are people's attention spans have gotten shorter. Literacy as a trend overall in the last 100 years has actually in some cases declined despite there being more modern and sophisticated nation states. We are seeing a general decline in people's literacies, in part because images are considered more important than text in a lot of cases, if you just look at your cell phones, for example. When we look at how that changes society, there's so much that I could say, but just keep in mind that, society has to change and adapt as a result. Media, news, reporting, entertainment, art, advertising, all of these things are affected by that shift from a text-based to a visual-based society. That doesn't mean that text is gone. It just takes a new place in the context of visual mediums. And then, of course, if we look at digital and AI technologies, we see a further weakening of metacognition and complex thought. That's one of the key things that people are pointing out and being concerned with. And of course, other things like dehumanization, and then, of course, how society operates as a result. Things like finance, media, education, law, even things like romance and love are being affected by these shifts in digital and AI technologies. So just keep in mind, this isn't the first time that technology comes along and changes how we operate. The key thing is we have to change and adapt accordingly. Next one, please. Another big question, what can previous technological revolutions teach us about AI? In short, new technology that comes along and changes everything is nothing new. This has happened a lot in human history. Next slide, please. Let's take it back to the first law of technology. So Mel Kranzberg was a professor in the history of technology at Georgia Institute of Technology. He was the founding editor of Technology and Culture, and he was the recipient of the Society for the History of Technology's Leonardo da Vinci Medal in 1967. He put together what he called his laws of technology. His first law is that technology is neither good nor bad, nor is it neutral, and nor is it both good and bad simultaneously. So what does that mean for us? It means that technology by itself is not good or bad, nor both, nor neutral. It is entirely dependent upon how it's used, for what purposes, and to what effects. It's basically not the technology, it's how you use it that determines whether the outcome is good or bad, and AI is no different. Next, please. Another thing we should look at that I think helps to inform our perspective is Jevons law, or sometimes known as Jevons paradox. British economist William Stanley Jevons observed in the coal question way back in 1865 that James Watt's highly efficient steam engines actually caused England's total coal consumption to surge rather than decline. His conclusion was that the more efficient a technology becomes, the more we use it, which is a bit of a paradox because we figure as something becomes more efficient, we would use it less. But actually, the inverse is true. We end up using it more. There's lots of historical parallels we could look at. For example, the vacuum, electricity, gasoline. As these technologies have become more efficient, technology has ended up using it more and more. It therefore stands to reason that AI will be no different from this. As it becomes more efficient, people will use it more rather than less. Next one, please. Big question, what are the problems we face with AI and what are our solutions? I can assure you that while the problems may seem daunting, the solutions we have are up to the task. So let's take a look at those. Next, please. So these are just a few of the categorizations of problems that I came up with. I'm not going to enumerate each one in detail. I think you guys are perfectly capable of reading yourselves. But that said, these are 6 that I just want to briefly touch upon. One is cognitive offloading. This is the idea that the hard work of thinking and complex thought is being shifted to let AI do that for us. And that's a problem because the brain is a muscle. The less we use it, the less capable it is at doing the things that we need it to do. So we need to really embrace opportunities to do critical thinking, complex thinking, and not just offload that metacognition to AI, but rather use it to help us think more rather than less. Creative loss is another problem. All these opportunities to create art, music, poetry, if you're relying on AI to do that for you, it's a loss of an opportunity to develop your creative abilities yourself. Another thing is decreased literacy. Again, this didn't start with AI, it started well before it, but according to a 2025 report from the National Literacy Institute, 54% of US adults aged 16 to 74 have a literacy below a 6th grade level. I'd like to believe that outside of America, it's better than that. I certainly hope so. But then again, we are seeing this as a more or less global trend. Dehumanization is certainly a hot button topic. And of course, resource allocation now favoring machines over humans, things like data centers and so forth are a hot button issue. Of course, digital well-being is a huge thing. That's why we're having this whole conversation right now. And the other speakers will touch on that at detail. And then, of course, safety and risk. What do we do about things like fraud, scams, deepfakes, false media, people weaponizing AI against well-meaning people? These are pretty big problems, but let's take a look at some of the solutions. Oh, I think there was maybe we missed one of the slides in there. That's okay. I can just go over those solutions real quick. I happen to have them pretty well memorized, but yeah, what they are basically is AI literacy and training, guiding principles for responsible usage, deeper learning, and then human flourishing and value creation. But let's talk about one of those topics, deeper learning. And so there should be a protocol that you guys get at the end of this session that's called the big shifts of deeper learning. And so there's 4 of them. One is deeper thinking and learning. Another one is authentic or real world work. Another one is student agency and personalization. And then the final one is rich technology infusion. If you're interested, I highly recommend those 4 big shifts protocols, but these things things are things that can help us combat against a lot of those problems that I was discussing, and how to use it responsibly and for a genuine intentional use purpose. Next slide, please. So to sum up, what are some tips for meaningful AI learning? First, don't hate nor fall head over heels for AI. Be AI conscious. Be conscious about how you use it. Have learners help develop protocols and principles for use. I think it's a bad idea to tell students this is what you have to do. I think having students be involved in that discussion for what's a responsible way to use AI? What are, boundaries we should set that are healthy? I think that's important. Engage in meaning making and practice learning by doing. I think these are strong strategies for meaningful learning. Purposely enact human flourishing and value creation. You guys will hear a lot more about human flourishing and what value creation is during the breakout sessions and then from the other speakers. And then use AI to help play the whole game at the junior level, which is another thing we can talk about in the breakout rooms. Next one, please. So how did we do this specifically? How do you use AI in the classroom effectively to, have countermeasures against those kinds of problems we're worried about? In my case, teaching this past summer at China Agricultural University, I taught a course called Crime, Policing, and Justice in U.S. History. Here's 3 things that we did. One was that we developed AI use protocols. The students themselves developed their own AI protocols and standards for acceptable use. We implemented an AI disclosure standardized practice for all assignments that told us what AI was used and why. We adopted an AI audit and prompt use system, and the students used AI by choice only when warranted. It wasn't like they were forced to use AI or we needed them to. They were able to choose purposely when and where to use AI. And in some cases, it wasn't the appropriate time. Other times it was very useful, but it was up to them. They had that agency. Another thing we do is we practice deeper learning. There's a lot that goes into deeper learning. Obviously, 15 minutes is a very short amount of time, but to highlight some of those things, that 4 big shifts protocol I was mentioning before, I think that's huge. And it's a very useful tool for teachers and even parents with their children, kind of deciding how do we do meaningful and intentional use when learning. Meaning making is one of those where you make the meaning important. I'm sorry, Vivek, can you go back one? Thank you. Authentic work, collaboration, technology infusion, value creation, student agency, and autonomy. These are all things that are part of deeper learning and are very successful. For assignments, we tested AI and evaluated different platforms for a variety of exercises. They made original plays that they filmed and edited into short videos. They used AI to help with making subtitles, for example, if they were speaking in Chinese, to have them in English or vice versa. They wrote professional grade history research articles with, ethical considerations and everything else for AI use. And they even created prison reform proposals for specific states, which were then submitted to the appropriate governmental officials for formal consideration. So all of this was a really great way for them to do it. Next one, please. So what should educators and parents pay attention to today? AI literacy and consciousness, human agency, well-being, deeper learning, value creation, and human flourishing, if I had to sum it up. Next one, please. So whether we like it or not, AI is here to stay. We must learn to live with it. We must learn to manage it, to use it responsibly and for good. We must be mindful in how we use it, how best to avoid its traps and pitfalls, and how to mitigate its undesirable effects while maximizing its beneficial qualities. Deeper learning and its 4 big shifts protocol can help guide us in this pursuit, as can historical knowledge, and most importantly, developing our own AI literacy and consciousness. Rather than use AI to make us think less, it's our responsibility to use it to think harder than ever about the future world we will create now in the present, especially in education. Next one, please.
All right.
So yeah, we've got about 30 seconds of my time left, but what we're going to do now is shift to breakout rooms. Each of you guys will have a prompt. There's 10 prompts on the Miro board. We'll have about 10 minutes. Please use that time. I should be joining in one of the rooms, but let's all give a big hand to Tina and Vivek and all of our other people that have worked so hard to bring this together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rob. I have opened the rooms so you all can join. And Rob, you can back and forth into various rooms. So I'm going to assign participants.
By the way, I noticed some of you didn't log in using guest. You might have received an email prior to this and a reminder to sign in as a guest user. But don't worry if you haven't. You can just stay in the main room Unfortunately, due to Teams restriction, we can't assign you into breakout sessions if you are not registered as a guest user or organization account. So if that's the case, if you're left behind in the main room, don't worry, we'll also have someone here.
Vivek, should we wait to be assigned rooms?
I have assigned everybody to rooms, and you will be joining.
I can see all of them. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I've assigned to you your rooms. Please join that. And if you are not able to join any rooms, you can stay here and Rob will join you here. And I'm also sharing the Miro link here in the chat box for everybody.
And let's see.
Rob, are you able to see rooms? I've made 6 rooms. I've assigned 3 people to 6, as per like three person to each room. Sorry.
Yeah, do you guys have a preference which room I join, or shall I just willy-nilly?
You can join any room. You can also even join each room one by one and let them know what they have to do.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
30 seconds per room. I think that would be better for right now because we have 6 rooms. Just quickly let them know what you have to do.
Are we doing this for 10 minutes or 5 or?
5, I guess, right, Tina?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vivek, are you staying in the main room?
Yes, I'll be staying in the main room.
So I'll join.
We can stop recording, please?
Yes. Which room doesn't have a speaker?
Every room, because Rob is only the one who is like the speaker for this one.
Okay, I'll join room 2 then.
Yeah. People who are unassigned and left as of now, you can wait in this room in the main lobby with me. You can also open the Miro board as it's shared in the chat box. So you can open the Miro and look at what Rob has added and add your comments to it. So there will be sticky notes there. You can add your comments to it. Thank you. And Rob will be joining us here as well. So you don't have to worry. Just use the Miro board link, or you can scan the QR code and write down what your thoughts are. Tina, are you there? Okay, Tina is not here. I hope you guys have the Miro board link. And you are using your sticky notes to add in the Miro board. We have 2 minutes left, so please add your reflections to the Miro board. All right, we have closed the rooms. We are just waiting for people to get back here.
And so, yeah, if you follow the prompt there, you...
So I spoke to...
I think some people were cut off mid-sentence.
I'm so sorry.
No worries, that tends to happen in chats. But yeah, very passionate discussions today. Very good questions. We had a question about methodology, how AI is replacing the thinking, especially in questions like for subject teachers like math, how back in the day, we talked about technology now with calculator, how that's becoming more efficient. But what I want to make a note though is you need to be careful when you're looking at a calculator versus AI, because calculator has only one output, whereas AI is a probabilistic model and it's prediction of the next word. So actually there's no real thinking as well. It also doesn't mimic human companionship. A calculator just tells you the value, right? Whereas AI has the danger of actually being interpreted as a human. So that's the difference. You can't compare the two tools as the same way. So that's something also we'll talk about. Anyway, so any takeaways today from anyone else who would like to share from the group?
I hope people have added the reflections, their personal reflections on the Miro board. So Miro board link is there for the rest of the activities as well. While others are giving their takeaway, their personal reflections, you can add your stuff too. So anybody who would like to give their reflections, you can unmute and just take the floor. Or we can also start with Rob if people are feeling shy.
Okay, I can take away some of the shyness. First off, guys, we know that there's a lot to talk about, and even 2 hours is too short to talk about all the ins and outs. But I do think this is still a valuable conversation to have. And when it comes to that Miro board, guys, if you're not familiar with how it works, you can continue posting your post-it notes and responses throughout this webinar. And so if you've got a really good idea, don't just keep it inside and then throw it in the wastebasket. No, please put it up on the Miro board, put it on the post-it note, because I am interested in hearing what you guys have to say. And I'm sure the others involved in this are as well. And so part of this is that it enables us to have a discussion that continues going even while the webinar is here. I'm not saying ignore the other speakers or activities, but you know, if you need a little bit more time to write your answer, that's kind of the reason why we're using the Miro board. And shout out to Vivek for helping to put all that together, and Tina as well, because it is a lot of work behind the scenes to put all this together. But everybody's voice is important, and you know, your thoughts, your ideas matter. So yeah, we'd love to hear from you if you're willing to share.
Thank you so much, Rob. Anybody who would like to share their personal reflections to any of the questions or any thoughts or anything, go ahead. All right. Yes, please, Daniel.
Yeah, I just had something I wanted to, I mean, in Rob's presentation, something that he said, or maybe a question to Rob that we can leave for the Q&A, but it was about the technologies that you specifically mentioned, starting with writing, then into sort of visual media, television, and now finally AI. Well, what I found quite interesting about those three is that the time periods in between them are drastically different, obviously. So all of human existence until writing, you know, however many thousands of years, human writing to visual media, a much smaller time frame, and now visual media to AI, an even smaller time frame. So we have that exponential growth of technology, which I think is an interesting thing for how to, you know, we are saying in your talk, you were saying, you know, this has happened before, and that's where where our learnings can come from. But the speed of growth, the speed of technology change, I think is what is leaving people not in the dust necessarily, but leaving people feeling as if they are falling behind. And I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts on that. Obviously, the same thinking applies, no doubt, in terms of what you were saying. But that specific idea of the speed of change and the feeling of almost helplessness that comes with it for a lot of people.
No, I think that's very very astute observation, Daniel. And I think you are right. Dwight D. Eisenhower, in one of his presidential addresses, mentioned how, you know, within a single lifetime, and he's talking in the 1950s here, that, you know, they went from a musket to the atomic bomb, you know, in a single lifetime, and how much that is outpacing things like ethics and morals and so forth. I think there is a concern that, yes, technology is starting to outpace human ability to keep up with it. I think that is something that, you know, we can all resonate with, is trying to just keep up with the changes that are happening with technology can be exhausting, and it can feel a lot of people, especially with age differences, very overwhelmed. Young people are growing up in this kind of society, whereas some people that are, you know, I was born literally before the internet took over. You know, I have students asking me, what was it like before cell phones? You know, and it's like, gosh, I feel like that wasn't that long ago. And yet, yes, technology is accelerating at a very quick rate. So you're right to point that out, that these kinds of technology changes are crazy. But I remember even asking, like, my grandmother at one point, what was the biggest change in your life? And she actually said it was the automobile. We all thought it was going to be something like the nuclear bomb or, something like that. But no, she said it was the automobile. The automobile is what changed everything. So we are seeing a lot of these changes. But remember, too, that, there's only so much you can do within a human lifetime. And yes, we're struggling to keep up with things, but there's also a certain pace at which we have to adjust. We have to slow down after a certain point and say, can humans keep up with this? Because there will be pushback. But great questions there, Daniel. I'm sorry if I'm talking too much and eating up other people's time. I should save it for the panel.
All right, let's quickly move to the references and resources. You can take a screenshot. And let me now welcome Irene for her workshop on AI literacy starts early. Irene, over to you, please.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes.
Can't see you, but oh wait, no, can see you.
Little before 6 o'clock, which is 9 o'clock your time.
Hi.
Maybe try.
I hope you can see me. I'm actually,
Tom.
I don't see
Tom,
anybody.
maybe? Vivek, can
We're
you mute
here, I
Tom?
promise.
Okay. Maybe, yeah, we'll just start without wasting our time. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone, and maybe good evening somewhere else. It's such a pleasure for me to be here. When we hear the phrase AI literacy, many people immediately think about chatbots, prompting, image generators, or learning how to use the latest AI tools. But we are talking about young children. I believe AI literacy has to begin somewhere else. It begins, not yet, Vivek, just go back. It begins with how children think, how they question, how they create, how they make decisions, and how they understand their own role when intelligent systems begin helping them. So rather than asking only, should children use AI? I think we need to ask a deeper question. What kind of thinkers are children becoming while they use AI? So because the goal is not simply to raise children who know how to operate AI, but the goal is to raise children who can think critically, create responsibly, and collaborate intelligently with AI. And that's kind of a mission quote of AI Explorers Academy that I'm building. Okay, now the slide. If you don't mind, maybe I just switch off my camera so you'll be focused on my presentation and the message instead of just my appearance. And so that way I will also save my data for the breakout rooms.
No worries, we understand. Please.
Yeah, so AI literacy doesn't mean learning AI tools. One of the most important distinctions I make in my work is this: AI literacy is not the same thing as learning AI tools. Some people think, oh, we need to teach children AI, and they straightforward go into teaching AI tools. Tools matter. Children will eventually need to understand how to interact with AI systems, but tools change incredibly quickly, like super fast. Any updates coming this week, next day, the tool we teach today may be completely different in a few years. And the thinking habits underneath those tools are far more durable. A child who learns to ask, how do I know this is true? Could there be another answer? Or what is my own idea? Should I even use AI for this? Or maybe I should ask a grown up for this. These kind of questions are building something much more valuable than simply learning where to click. And that is why I often say tools change, wise thinking lasts. Okay, next slide, please. AI literacy begins before the screen. And this is especially important when we talk about younger learners. Starting AI literacy early does not mean placing a 3 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old in front of an AI chatbot. and teaching them increasingly sophisticated prompts. Quite the opposite. For young children, AI literacy can begin before the screen time. So it begins with human foundations, such as curiosity, questioning, creativity, critical thinking, responsibility, human connection, judgment. Like, for example, when a child asks, why did that happen? We are developing inquiry. When a child hears the answer and asks, are you sure? We are developing critical thinking. When a child invents 3 possible endings for a story, we are developing creativity. When a child decides that a person might be a better source or help than a computer, we are developing judgment. These are already foundations of AI literacy. So when I say AI literacy starts early, I'm not advocating for more technology in early childhood. I'm advocating for stronger human thinking before technology becomes more powerful. Next slide, please. And this is why I like to use a very simple human thinking journey. Is like pause, think, choose, reflect. If you see the very first one, pause, it's when a child says, I have an idea. So pause gives the child space to begin with themselves. And then think, then when child says, let me explore it, or let me have a look. What do I already know? What can I imagine? What could I try? So all these questions matter before they matter for learning. And then choose. It's only then we see that AI helps one part. AI can be helpful in certain part of the inquiry. Notice the wording. AI does the task and AI helps one part. So the human should decide where AI should help. And reflect, we see that, I decide this. For example, AI suggested this, and I decided to take this. Or like, what should I change in this part? So here is the reflection for a child to make the decision. So, and the 3 habits that I would like also to present from that philosophy, the learning journey, there are 3 simple habits adults can begin encouraging. First one is question before trusting, which means like AI systems can sound extremely confident, even when they are wrong. But you can find that, this is a very confident answer, but this is completely wrong. So young children do not need sophisticated verification systems to begin learning this. They can start with simple questions like, how do we know? Could there be another answer? Like, who could help us check? That habit comes before the technical skill. Another habit, create before coping. Before AI generates something, the child should contribute something. An idea, a drawing, a character, a question, a possible solution, and AI can extend creativity, but it should not automatically become the source of every idea. And I believe the child should remain the source of intention. And the 3rd habit, choose when AI belongs. Perhaps one of the most overlooked parts of AI literacy is knowing when not to use AI. Sometimes AI is helpful. Sometimes independent effort is more valuable. Sometimes a book is better. Sometimes another child is better. Sometimes a teacher or parent is better. And sometimes the most developmentally appropriate choice is simply to struggle with the problem a little longer. So healthy AI use is not only about knowing how to use AI, it is about developing the judgment to decide when AI is useful, why I should use AI here, and how much AI should be here. And this is where AI literacy connects very naturally with digital well-being. And we should not only measure how long children are using technology, we should also see what kind of thinking is happening while they're using it. So without taking too much time for just theory, I would like the next slide. Who did the thinking? I imagine this. I would like to present you a scenario. A 7-year-old receives a school homework. Write a short story. And the child opens the AI assistant and types, write me a story. Within seconds, the AI produces a complete story. It has a beginning, a problem, characters, descriptions, and a polished ending. And it sounds so beautiful, like really nice story. The child copies it and says, I'm done. Technically, the homework is complete. And the result may even look impressive. But almost none of the ideas came from the child. So I want to ask, who actually did the thinking? Okay. If you can hear me now, we are about to go to the breakout room. So for you, what do you think? How could we redesign this learning experience so that AI supports the child's thinking, curiosity, creativity without replacing all this?
All
That's
right.
what I would like you to explore together.
I think just because to save your data, let's not divide people into breakout rooms. Let's have
Okay.
the discussion here, right? Because
Okay.
you would need more data to switch between rooms.
Right.
So you can
That's
talk
the
about your
first breakout room
activity.
just
Yeah,
completely kicked me out
I
of the
understand.
webinar.
That's why I was thinking that let's do it here only. Tina, can we stop recording and let people be on the Miro board? So the Miro board link is shared in the chat box. I'm sharing it again. And to take over the flow and start her presentation on from consumption to contribution. Over to you, Jessica.
Vivek and Tina, and thank you to our previous speakers and all this participation. It's we're speaking the same language, which is a big part of the challenge of navigating any sort of paradigm shift and big changes in our education system. So when asked to be a part of this panel and this event, you know, I started with that question of what is actually well-being, because we're talking about well-being in the world of digital and AI. And for us, when we were asking this question, when we started the U-Power project, and coming from the classroom, being a parent, I found and fell in love with the Japanese framework of Ikigai. And there'll be a slide that talks about Ikigai. And it's a framework and a way of crafting a well-purposed life that's very much rooted in contribution. And a reason for getting up in the morning is some of the translation of that framework. And so for us, digital well-being is not just about reducing harm, but it's about building young people's capacity, as we've spoken about today, to act, to adapt, to create, and contribute in an ever-connecting world. And so in our experience in the work that we get to do, because we really do get to do this work, it's an honor and a privilege, we've had and found great success in pairing growth, student agency, confidence, resilience through the lens of an entrepreneurial mindset. And Lewin, this is part of what came up in our first breakout session, was entrepreneurship does offer a great platform to apply our learning, traditional curriculum and AI. And we've seen the transformative power of building that confidence, engagement, to lead to like deep, authentic empowerment for our students. So again, rather than starting with the question of how do we protect young people from technology, and I still ask that question. I have an 8 and a 6-year-old at home. But we're trying to focus today on also how do we build young people who can leverage, who can use powerful technology without outsourcing their agency, identity, or imagination. Digital well-being is not just about reducing harm, it's about developing that capacity. And I wanted to share another metaphor that we often use in our work, which is the idea of a bird sitting on a thin branch. And if we think of our world as it is today as that branch, or how we've typically prepared young people for their future with certificates, degrees, diplomas, based on a world that we were able to predict better than we can now, what we actually want to turn our focus to is that that bird trusts in the strength and ability of its wings, so that no matter what's happening underneath it, it will always have the safety and ability to fly and to thrive. Next slide, please. So yes, we absolutely need those safeguards. We need conversations about privacy, about addictive design and social media and screen time, but also that it should not and cannot have to limit our autonomy to do the judgment for us. And when we're talking about bans, which in Canada, we're having similar conversations about bans for certain platforms under 16, it's got to be a balance, because removing a tool doesn't necessarily help a young person know what to do when that tool eventually comes back into their lives, or they find that tool or something like it outside of those limits. So it's about pairing protection with their human development and their cognitive development. So in our work, we think about education as helping people understand the world, how to reason with it, how to relate to it, and importantly, how to recognize how they can contribute to it. In our work, we work with youth as young as 10, whereas I know Irene starts younger, but how to connect who they are, what they love to do, what their innate skills and talents are to their communities and to the world. So this helps us avoid a fear-based or purely behavioral frame, so that we can acknowledge legitimate concerns about social media, smartphones, AI, but then also move quickly into what we believe is the deeper work. And Rob touched on this with deeper learning and value creation. We also have a recently published paper that I'll have a QR code link for you. And it's called The Missing Foundation of Foundational Learning. So if we think of foundational learning as literacy, numeracy, and relational capability, how do we actually apply that? How do we package it up and do something with it before saying, oh, once you graduate, or once you hit this age, or once you get this milestone, but in that lesson every single day? That's where we live in our work. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm not anti-tech. Obviously, we use tech. We are an ed tech company, but I think we can all agree we're anti-disembodied or addictive or purposeless tech for the sake of tech. And we actually avoided developing our own software longer than we should have, because I said the world does not need another learning management software, right? What is actually needed? What is different? And I'm proud to say we've created something that is different. But the question really then becomes, what capacities need to be developed so that young people can use digital tools without losing themselves in them. And we are seeing this. And again, some of my fellow panelists and speakers, we have high levels of disengagement. Kids aren't coming to school. Even pediatric suicide rates are high. There's a lot of chaos in the world right now. There's a lot to be afraid of. There's a lot that's keeping our kids scared. But how do we, rather than just turn it all off for them, which again, as parents and educators, sometimes we want to be able to do, but that doesn't necessarily help them either. By just saying, don't look over there or don't use this, they know it's in their world. They know it's a part of what they're stepping into when they leave your classroom. So how do we teach them to trust themselves, to trust in that strength and ability of their wings, so that no matter the world outside of your classroom door or your house door, they're going to be okay and they're going to be able to participate in a meaningful way? So we're not talking about leaving the screens off, but how do we actually use them meaningfully? How do we take our children from simply consumers who know how to do this to those who actually know how to ask questions and critically engage with that content and contribute valuable and meaningful content themselves back into the world? And like Irene and Tina said, the tools are changing constantly. So teaching tools is not good enough, but teaching young people how to develop digital wisdom, to understand how and why these tools were crafted and how they can be useful. I know in Canada and Ontario, they don't actually have computers courses anymore for high school. We take for granted that young people know how to use technology. And again, they know definitely how to passively use technology, but do they know how to leverage, interact, and take ownership of that technology to amplify their own being? And so this is where entrepreneurship has become really interesting for us. Not only entrepreneurship as, hey, we're starting a bunch of kids startups, but entrepreneurship as a way of thinking and acting. Entrepreneurship really as a pedagogy. Next slide. And so when I left the traditional classroom and started the U-Power project, or Youth Empowerment Project, we've been testing this for the last several years. So using entrepreneurship as the vehicle, where the venture is not actually the thing we're that interested in. The venture is the proof, but the person, that's who we are developing. That's our product. And when teachers and parents reflect on the difference in young people after going through the framework I'm going to share and encourage all of you to test out, that's the pudding, that's the proof. We're actually seeing authentic transformation in young people from 10 to 18, 24, that they see themselves differently and they relate to curriculum differently because they understand the purpose. And then they layer in technology to amplify what they're able to do with your curriculum. So we're taking young people to learn and notice a need, to recognize outside of themselves, to make decisions, to talk to strangers, to communicate an idea, and then to use digital tools intentionally, to ask for feedback, to keep going, and to fill in gaps of we're not great at everything. And for those of you, any of you who are entrepreneurs, sometimes you're asked to be great at everything and to do everything. And this is where technology can be a really, really useful tool. And we've seen great results, even though it's not requirement of our programs for students to launch operational ventures. They do because they're excited by it and they have all these incredible ideas that are their own. And the best thing we love to hear is, I didn't know I could do that, right? And so I'm going to share with you on the next slide what that framework is. So to keep in the theme of entrepreneurship, we've named it BOSS. But for us, being a boss is not necessarily being the boss or executive of your company. It is about believing that anything is possible. It's about observing the world around you, shaping your ideas into opportunities, and then sharing those ideas with the world. And so when I go back to when I started about what is well-being, in our experience, we really wanted to share this framework with you because in our experience, this has been a powerful lever in pedagogy to teach students what regardless of the curriculum, why it matters and what it matters to them in their lives and how they can connect that learning back with community. So we're essentially trying to help young people practice looking to themselves first, and then using technology to become more human and to share those human stories and those possibilities with their audiences. Next slide. So this is at the bottom, a diagram that we share with our students, and it takes Ikigai, and it's the westernized version, which has layered in also the economic participation, where we are combining what we love to do, what we're great at doing, what does our community need, and how can we contribute to the economy? How can we also provide for ourselves and our families? And so underneath the BOSS framework are also 4 capacities that matter enormously in a digital life. It's identity. Who am I becoming when I use this tool? Discernment. Is this true? Is it useful? Is it ethical? Is this even my thinking? So similar to Irene, like that pause, think. There's so much overlap, and which is I love how Tina and Vivek brought us together, coming at it from different lenses, but using slightly different approaches. Contribution, this is our big word. This is, for us, social entrepreneurship is all about packaging up who we are and contributing. And how could I use this to create value for someone else and strengthen relationships while doing so? Okay, next slide, just looking at time. The reason we found that social entrepreneurship is so powerful is that it gives us technology to actually do a job, not do our thinking. And so the frameworks that we've explored already are really important to layer in. It gives us a platform. Okay, I know I'm researching a problem. I know I have my own ideas connected to the world at large, connected to my community, but maybe I need some help in the implementation. We'll go next slide. So we've seen this in action with students across Canada. I'm really excited to be going to Kenya in a couple of weeks to be talking with their Ministry of Education to see what's possible on a system-wide scale when we bring this entrepreneurial lens for teachers to leverage in their classrooms, and then pairing AI as a tool to connect existing curriculum with a mindset that empowers students to do something with that learning. I know we're all here, we're curriculum designers, we're educators, we know how much work goes into redesigning curriculum, and I think we're coming to realize we can't do things the same way. The world is changing so quickly that to spend 2 decades designing a curriculum that's going to be consumed, it's not relevant anymore. So rather than focusing too much on curriculum, we need to focus on pedagogy and making it real in the moment, and AI can help us do that. Give a quick example of a student who we've had in the last week who has autism, and he's been developing a natural food coloring product. And this student is incredibly passionate, incredibly knowledgeable, a true scientist, but he's been able to layer in AI as his business partner. He's not necessarily a marketeer or comfortable communicating with the business world. And so what's very much him and his passion and his idea of how to connect this, we're able to teach him about AI to strengthen and share. So he's got belief, he's been observing, he's shaped an idea, but for him it was the sharing that that was needed. I'm going to skip the next slide, Vivek, because I saw Tina's hand. So I think I had, we're making up some time here with mine. To these 3 questions. So we'll leave you with something before we head into the breakout. And the breakout we're going to do similar to Irene's. I made that request to kind of keep us together in this brainstorming. But 3 great questions to ask before, during, and after using technology is, what did I actually consume there? What did I use it for? And how did that make me feel? Was I actually like impressed and excited by how that technology enhanced? And yeah, okay, so we are moving right along. The screen changed for me. But yeah, so what I thought we could do similar to Rob and Irene was, let's practice. Let's, like, what does this look like in a classroom? How do we take a traditional lesson? Because what we're hearing from education systems around the world is that more curriculum or new curriculum isn't necessarily the answer or what's possible for school systems right now. What we need is to help teachers come at that curriculum with a different mindset to help us make that curriculum tangible, real, so that we can catch students in the moment in the pursuit of well-being. And then how do we also then, and only then, layer in the AI and technology to connect those dots and show students what's possible with their learning and how to connect it with the outside world. So Vivek or Tina, if you could bring up the mural, and I can just kind of speak to what we'll be working on together here.
Do you want me to present the mural board?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, just give me a second. By the time people, please open the Miro board in your...
Yeah, so what you'll see when the board comes up for you, or you join us with the link, is I'm the lilac or the purple board, Jessica Flynn, and I've shared the belief, observe, shape, and share. Using curved arrows in Miro is a skill yet to be developed by myself, so they're a little wavy and wonky, but you get the idea. And so the challenge I thought we could workshop here today is taking a standard lesson. So in this case, a grade 7 English persuasive writing assignment, where they ask, the outcomes will be, can the student demonstrate that they've learned persuasive structure, that they can develop an argument, thanks Vivek, that they can draft and revise, and that they can present a persuasive text. And you'll see the legend up in the top right corner there. The first round of stickies will be yellow, and you can just copy and paste. I think everyone's gotten to practice in Miro now. But first, that empowerment lens using the BOSS framework. So how do I build some level of belief that this assignment is valuable to my student, that they have something to share in their skills and talents? And I think I've been in those busy classrooms. Sometimes you don't get even to make eye contact with every student in your room. So this is a practice that really does take practice, but that belief mindset, that growth mindset is essential every single day. You never know what kind of day your students are having, your teachers are having. So lead with belief that this matters. And don't just say, oh, because you need it to get this credit or you need it for this, but what does this actual task matter to the world? Then we go into observe. What problems are going on that I'm passionate about in my community? You saw the UN SDGs graphic up there. We use this as a framework to help our students understand and start to conceptualize what is a challenge and how can I be a part of it. So how can they observe what's happening around this assignment and make it meaningful? And then shape is, what shape does it take? Is it a persuasive, the default might be an essay, but what if it's a speech? What if it's a script for a short commercial on a topic? Like how creative can they get? And we're not using AI yet in this part of the lesson. This is just our, similar to Irene's, that like first initial thought. And then share, think about who is on the receiving end of this piece? Who can I share it with? What different platforms might I publish this to? Again, it might not just be an essay that I give back to my teacher, but could I turn this into something and share it with my community, with my parents, to convince them to let me have a smartphone, whatever it may be. So yeah, I'll give you a few minutes to get in with your creative thinking on the yellow sticky. So taking that persuasive writing assignment and applying the BOSS framework first to what's possible with that assignment.
I'm also just going to stop recording for those of you who want to open up your mic, and feel free to share any reflections, any thoughts.
I think this is, to add on to this is what me and Tina, we have been discussing when it comes to MentorMind as well, that we want to focus more on the literacy part. Recently, I was invited in one of the talks at UCL, where we were discussing how UCL as a university should implement AI and if it should implement AI. And the most discussed topic was on AI literacy, that we need people to be more literate about how and when and where to use AI. So I think that is a much needed hot topic. And one more thing that I have actually written down, which Rob mentioned during his presentation, that was don't hate or fall high on heels or for AI, be AI conscious. And I think literacy is what helps you become AI conscious. You can't escape it. AI has penetrated all the industries. It's everywhere. You just can't escape now. You have to find ways to live with it. And I think the best way is AI literacy.
And I also want to add on that, one thing that's the takeaway from me from Irene's session is that AI literacy not just about teaching how to use AI tools. It's about actually knowing when not to use it as well, making that judgment
Exactly.
yourself critically. So understanding the concerns, implications, and risks, and trying to mitigate that, whether you feel like the benefits outweigh the risks, right? And as well, what's the best way you can use it to augment your learning, not replace your thinking. And another area I think we haven't had time to talk about today is actually something I'm passionate about is policy aspect of this. So in terms of OECD, also the other frameworks, UNESCO and EdTech for Good framework from UNICEF recently that came out with the 2.0, so the white papers. So all of that has actually still is a huge a lot of ambiguity and is very vague in terms of what actually is the guideline for using AI solutions for schools and what are some they do mention some of the product standards and safety risks, but how exactly do we implement that in the classrooms in terms of practice?
Exactly.
So a lot of that is still very theoretical. So it's a lot in terms of governance. It's not catching up to schools in the framework. So some of the things I think it still needs to be researched further. And that's why I think it's valuable for governments, for example, Department of Education is working with researchers from around the world, as well as edtech practitioners as well as teachers. All of those three perspectives to balance the conversation together, which is one of the conference I attended just recently, a few weeks ago at the Oxford University AI in Education. And that is something that I think they've done really well is bring in multiple perspectives, including OpenAI, Google DeepMind, so edtechs as well as, researchers, academics, and teachers themselves and head teachers to talk about what their concerns are and what still needs to be implemented, and as well researching what is the best product safety standards that we can have going forward. So a lot of that, our discussions and insights are taken up for the Department of Education drafts. So for the hopefully upcoming paper that's coming out, yeah. So hopefully we'll share some insights from that as well. Anyway, so it's really great to see so many responses for in terms of AI literacy and assessment and feedback as well is very important in terms of an aspect. That's something we potentially could have for another day as a huge topic. We will probably.
Shall we move ahead with the panel discussion, Tina, because the clock is ticking.
Yeah, and I think also we're going to have to cut down on some questions of the panel discussion. Originally, we had one plan for each speaker, so we'll have to probably cut to maybe 3 fundamental questions. And we also want to invite you now to bring your questions into the Q&A. So that's in the section. You can click on the top of the Teams. Feel free to add any questions you want, and we'll pick one out of them to answer, probably with the time we have.
Exactly. I think I'll go with 2 questions, and that can be open to all of you guys, all 4 of you, and then 1 question can be taken from the audience, if that sounds good. Perfect. Starting with the first one, so we can have Rob talking about it first. Max 30 seconds. So the first one is, what does digital well-being mean in 2026? And now that we have AI become part of everyday life, has the meaning changed from how we might have understood digital well-being 5 years ago? Over to you, Rob.
I think it absolutely has. I mean, things are always changing. So, AI wasn't as prevalent in the conversation. Now, as you pointed out, Vivek, it's everywhere. It's penetrated all aspects of society. And it wasn't a question before, what about children and how they'll be affected by AI? I wasn't hearing that much 5 years ago. I was hearing more about how COVID is creating problems, for humans to have interactions with each other. Now, I think those problems are just magnified, and people haven't really, they're grasping for solutions. And I think now's the time we're having those conversations. Hopefully that was 30 seconds.
Yeah, thank you. Irene, would you like to add to it?
Hey, yes, about well-being. How does it about digital well-being in 2026?
Yes.
Yeah, I think digital well-being is no longer just about protecting children from technology. It's about preparing them to live well with technology. AI is changing not only what children consume, but how they think, create, and solve problems. So digital well-being now includes developing the judgment to decide when I should use AI, when should I think for myself, when do I need another human instead of another algorithm. That's why I see AI literacy and digital well-being as deeply connected, and we definitely need to develop this topic.
Definitely. Jessica, any addition to it from your end?
I just think, again, well-being, the more technology we have, we're getting new definitions and seeing gaps of, our mental health, our physical health, and going back to the human. And what does it mean to have a well-crafted life, to be a healthy and flourishing human? And then how can we leverage AI and technology to help us be human first and to connect with each other and contribute?
Definitely. Can't agree more. Tina, quickly, do you want to add on to it? You're on mute. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I think for me, digital well-being in 2026 is more about human agency as well. I think that's a theme that has come up quite a few times in our conversations today. I think among all of our speakers as well, it's a very huge concern in terms of how much agency do we have in terms of teachers and students in the classroom. Teachers themselves using AI tools, the longer they use it, becomes more efficient. But in terms of the professional judgment, how much are they actually taking to actually read the feedback themselves, for example, right? As well for students, are they actually using it, for example, the child as well in the story? Are they making that story themselves, or is AI generating all of that for them? So something I've been thinking about is if we give them choice and agency, that's one example of agency as well. But what about as well in giving them a problem that they can use to apply in real life? That's something I think an entrepreneurship has done very well, and I think that could be increasingly used in schools as a curriculum, and to bring more awareness of problem solving in real life that can't be replaced with AI, because it requires real critical thinking and your context, understanding that the problem within your own local area. It could be global warming. It could be there was one I was a judge for one of the International Greenwich Olympiad, and I was seeing one of these solutions that was just, you can tell they did not use AI actually majority of the ideas were very original. They're looking at how they can provide an app that can help detect any sustainability issues. So in regards to wastes, so saving some of the wastes to recycle in a way, very sustainable way for the local community. And a lot of the ideas comes back to human community building. So that's something that can't be replaced with AI, because if you have a community that you grow, understanding about the importance of sustainability, carbon footprints, then over time we help each other, and that word spreads. And that's something that is more important, more powerful, becoming change makers as young children themselves and promoting them to be leaders in the world as a global citizen, rather than having AI to solve all the problems, because they can't solve all the problems in the world. And that's where we need to come in to use AI to utilize that to augment our thinking and ultimately to encourage human flourishing. So that's something I've been thinking about. Anyways, I feel like that is a bit longer than 30 seconds.
Yes, but it's okay. Moving to the last question from my end for all of you, and then we'll have one final question from the audience. The last and the second question really follows from that only. We have talked about agency, we have talked about what does it mean when it comes to digital well-being in 2026, and how it has, changed throughout the years. So let's make the final one more practical. So if you could recommend just one action for educators to take this term and one action for parents to try at home, or maybe for kids, what would that action be? So again, very short answers from all of you, and we can start with Rob again. Rob?
Sorry, I was muted. Okay. Yeah. So basically, one thing that I will say is that every day you should try to do something meaningful. And so with intentional use, if you're parents and you're saying, okay, I need to worry about how my kid is using AI or what needs to be done, go ahead and take some of the frameworks that Jessica or Irene has provided you. Go ahead and start using them today, or tonight, wherever you happen to be in the world, and continue to practice using those frameworks. Remember, the first time you do something is probably going to be the worst time as far as your ability to do it. But the more you do it and the more you practice it, you will just naturally get better at it. And so part of enhancing your digital literacy and well-being and practicing meaning making and practicing human flourishing is, pick something and stick with it until you get really good at it, and it just becomes a part of your everyday habit. Same with teachers in the classroom. I highly recommend use that 4 big shifts protocol.
Right. Thank you so much, Rob. Due to time constraint, anyone who would like to add anything from any one of you, please go ahead.
Yes, I would like, because I am deeply connected with parents and educators, and this is actually the AI Explorers Academy is building to help parents and families and educators and school leaders how to actually raise the children in AI-powered world. So I would be very short. One action, practical, very one for educators. Design learning experience where students think before AI helps. AI should extend learning, not replace the learning process. That would be for educators. But for parents, I would say, do not start the conversation with, oh, how much time did you spend online today? What did you do? Or, this kind of questions. But you can ask, oh, what did you create today? Or what did you learn today using AI? Or what surprised you most? And so that way we will activate again this thinking, and the children will be willing to share.
Thank you so much, Irene and Rob. Let's have a final question from the audience. Audience, if you have any question that you would like to ask any one of our speakers, please go ahead. You can type it down in the chat box and let us know. We can come back to it as well once people have added some comments or questions in the chat box. But before we let you go, 2 quick things. First, thank you so much for joining, and would really appreciate your feedback. So you can scan the QR code on the screen. It takes less than a minute, and it helps us make the next webinar even more better. So second, if today was useful and you would like to come back for many more sessions, that's the same QR code that will also get you registered for our upcoming events. You can also find us on LinkedIn as well as on Instagram, or if you want to connect with us as a partner, or you want to, pilot our programs in your school, you can just write us at contact@mentormind.co.uk. So before we wrap up, I would also like to welcome Daniel to take the stage and talk about Eva. And then we might have one final question for the expert speakers who have joined us.
We have one question from Q&A, by the way.
Sorry, Tina?
We have a question from Q&A.
Okay, we have all right, perfect.
Oh, actually, sorry, that's fine. Yeah, and also want to say, good picture that you have decided to use with me, Vivek. Feel free to join our community, so do take a photo of this QR code. And we'll also share some upcoming events and resources, as well as the materials that our speakers have provided us. So yeah, we'd love to keep in touch we have a growing community of educators, technologists, and founders at UCL, and we'd love to invite you to join us. We also share some tips on research and as well in education pedagogy. So it would be lovely to also have you contribute to future events. So anyways, without further ado, Daniel, please take it away. The floor is all yours.
Thanks so much. I'll fly through this because yeah, there's been so much wonderful conversation already today. But thanks for the intro. I'm Daniel. I'm a content writer, course writer at EWA, specifically on our new project, which is EWA Skills. So EWA is a language learning company, language learning application and product with more than 500,000 users. And Skills is our attempt at converting some of that domain expertise with regards to online learning into teaching adult learners, self-learners, how to interact with and use AI responsibly and safely. And so the reason I'm here is to just learn a little bit more about, from a student learner perspective, what some of the thoughts are. And some of the stuff we discussed today, I think, was super, super useful for me and for my team. So where we work now, I think you can skip to the next slide. Thanks, Vivek. What we're currently generating at the moment course-wise is courses where learners pick what they want to make or do, and then we teach them, we show them by using the tools in safe environments, either on board on our platform or externally when we give them a sort of laundry list of things to complete and achieve in the course. And then finishing up, they'll finish off these courses with a AI created or AI assisted product or final item that they can review with us as well. Everything that we show the user comes from the tools themselves, the specific tools that we employ or suggest using for any given task or course outcome. Because we found that, you know, very few people come to AI with the desire simply to learn about AI. Most people are starting from a specific goal or outcome that they have. They want to create a landing page, they want to create a business proposal, whatever it might be, and they want to know how they can use AI to augment that workflow. So that could be a workflow that they already do in their daily life, but now they want to see how they can speed it up, improve it, or add additional skills that they aren't necessarily upskilled at that stage for themselves. How can they use AI to integrate those skills into their workflow? And so our goal is to then move the teaching beyond simply just getting an answer from AI or getting AI to reproduce or create exactly what they want, and that's it. But rather teaching users how to check the results, how to correct AI, how to reject or to review the content and results that AI provides with them. And so that's the sort of way that we are teaching our courses. You can skip through to the next slide. So then how we're doing that. So everything we're doing is being, all the tools that we are teaching are being researched from sort of start to finish. We're sort of covering domains. We're covering every piece of knowledge from the official resources that the tools provide, their onboard knowledge. We're using the tools ourselves and working with sort of from a student perspective to test and to create every workflow before we teach it to the student. And then, because I think that was a good comment that was made, because things are changing so quickly, we're also constantly updating our content using various forms of automation and AI ourselves to ensure that our coursework is based on the latest version of every available tool, and that the tools being suggested are the correct tools at the time for those specific workflows. Just very quickly, so obviously, as I mentioned, EWA Skills is self-learn for adults, but we are working at creating a student-focused, teacher-led version that's currently in development as well, which is, again, a big part of why I'm here today, is just to get a feel for what some of the concerns, what some of the watch-outs, what some of the AI literacy talking points are, so that we can ensure that, you know, anything we create in future follows a very sustainable and responsible application of AI use for online learning especially. And then, yeah, obviously, if anybody would like to test or view either EWA or EWA skills, then feel free to reach out to me or to Michael, my colleague, via Tina, and we can get you access, free pilot access to either or both of the products. So yeah, I flew through that. I hope that it made sense, but thanks for giving me an opportunity to just plug our product a little bit at the end of this wonderful webinar.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Tina, would you like to add the final note?
Yeah, so I'd just like to close up today by thanking everybody for their fabulous thoughts and insights. We learned so much from different contexts. I wish we had a little bit more time. I think it's always a constraint as well as educators and leaders. So we're going to try to see if we can potentially follow up conversations with the future webinars. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on what other topics you'd be interested in, and definitely do join us, our community. We curate these kind of events regularly. So thank you so much to our speakers, Rob, Irene, Jessica, Daniel, and as well as to Vivek for organizing and moderating. Amazing job for all of you, and your contributions are very thoughtful. So again, Vivek, if you could go back to that slide with the QR codes for our LinkedIns, feel free to take a photo of that, and then do keep in contact with all of us. And as Daniel said, if you want to get in contact with him, then just directly message us on LinkedIn or email us at contact@mentormind.co.uk, and we'll get back to you on any questions you have. All right, so thank you so much. We're about 5 minutes over time, but I think we're doing well, better than we expect. So thank you, everybody. We hope you enjoy a lovely rest of the day, wherever you are in the world.
Thank you,
so much,
everyone.
everyone.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Daniel and Rob. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everyone. Take care.